Hey y'all. I noticed last time that my audio was really kind of crappy, so I'm using this baby hopefully to boost my audio and so y'all can hear what's going on. So, as you can see, I've changed environments. So today we are in our play cubby at the house, filled with a bunch of magical, whimsical toys and things. Fun little place to be if you're a child. Anyways, today we are going to be taking a journey into the life of Cheyenne. So I promise there will be a point at the end of this, but it's going to be a big old story about me and my adventures. So I'm going to tell y'all about the time that I spent in Malawi, Africa. We were there for a month, and let me tell you, it was the hardest, most brutal physical months of my life. And I'm going to tell y'all why. Okay, first of all, you need to know that I have lived in a lot of hot places. You know, I grew up next to the equator, so lots and lots of heat. We lived in Nicaragua, and it was just, hot all year round. We never had a winter. So, and then now I live in Texas, which is, one of the hottest places in America. It's not uncommon for us to have a week or two in August specifically that is 100 plus degrees like all week, even at 10 o'clock at night, and people have described it as the front porch of hell, and I can see why, because it is terribly, terribly hot. Anyways, knowing this, Malawi is the hottest place I have ever been in my entire life. It was so unbelievably hot. So this is the 5th month, I think. Yeah, it was month 5 of the race. So we've been, actually, I felt like we had been chasing the sun the entire time, because we were in the Dominican, we were in Haiti, we were in Thailand and Malaysia, and all these are like really hot, just really hot places. And we were already in Africa for a month already. We were in Tanzania, which is also very hot, right? So, but we're just kind of used to this hot. It's very similar to what I'm used to. So I'm just like, it's hot. It's sweaty. It's annoying. But this is a different type of heat. Like, I legitimately felt like I was in an oven. Okay, so the first day that we were there, again, this is the 5th month that we've been on the race walking around in the sun. So the first day that we're there, we're standing in line to get our lunch, and all of us are there. There's 2 of our teams. We're partnering with another team there this month. And so there's 14 of us there, 15, something like that. And we're all standing in line to get our lunch outside in the heat because there is zero shade. And so it wasn't even that long. It was maybe an hour in the sun. The next morning, y'all, we all woke up with like blisters all over our face. Like, my nose was just covered in sun blisters. My teammate's forehead was like blistering. Her lips swelled up like 3 times the normal size. Like, everyone. It was such an intense heat that everyone was like freaking out in the morning. They're like, what is happening? Like, we all got sun sick, like every single one of us. And so we're experiencing this really intense heat. Just as one element that is intense about this month, right? And so the next thing, basically, kind of goes along with heat, is we are on a hill. We're in the middle of a desert, right? And it's not quite Sahara Desert where there's like no shrubbery whatsoever. I mean, there's shrubs, and there's a lot of dead grass, but there are no trees. Okay, so we don't have shade, and we're on the top of the hill, right? So we're highly elevated towards the sun, and we are tenting, right? So we're living in our tents. So all of us have our own little 1-person tent or 2-person tent, depending on how big you want it. Mine is a 2-person tent, so I have enough room to blow up my little bed. I had an air mattress, which is luxury compared to some of these people that had the little like spongy things they slept on. So I was really grateful for my air mattress, but it took up a little bit more room and it was heavier, but I was willing to compromise, y'all, because I got better sleep than everybody else. But anyways, so I had my air mattress and a little bit of space to like pile my belongings next to my bed. But I'm living in a tent, and so is everybody else. This little tent village on the top of this desert hill. There's one building on the top of the hill that the only place that we can seek shelter, right? So but it's under construction, so it's not finished building. There are walls, there are no doors. Like they're just archways, right? So there's shade, but it's under construction. And for whatever reason, I guess they're using it for the foundation. It's just like broken up bricks, so it's just rubble all over the floor. So it's just like a bunch of rocks on the floor, set like everywhere. So it's not like you can just go in there and sit and just like chill, which eventually we did anyways. It's like, you know what, to heck with this, I'm just going to lay on these rocks. But they're just very uncomfortable rocks. And so that was our living condition, right? And it's dusty, it's very sandy, it's like a black powdery sand. So every time you walk, it's just like little clouds of poof, 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 poof. And so by the end of the day, like your feet are completely black. I really might include some pictures here if I can find some pictures. So my feet are completely black up until like mid-calf. It's just like a powder. Okay, so my feet are dirty. I'm very, very hot. I have no shade. As soon as the sun rises above the first morning, I experienced some things very, 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 very soon off the bat. Because the first morning I'm in my tent and it's like 7:05, right? Just like barely, the sun has only been like above the peak for like minutes. And I woke up in a panic. Like I woke up, I sat up. I was frantically like grasping around for like breath. I was touching things. Like I was like, I gotta get out of here. I have to get out of here. Like it was emergent. Like my brain was in panic. I was like, I'm in an oven. I have to get out of here. I have to get out. So I like frantically was like getting at my zipper, and I like emerged from my tent. And I was like, oh my Lord, I was just inside of an oven. Like legitimately, I was inside of an oven. And the only refuge I have at this point, because the sun, again, there's no shade, is like, okay, so the sun is coming up over the resin. So there's like a tiny bit of shade directly behind my tent. So that is where I go and take refuge for like 5 minutes before the sun gets too high that my shade disappears. So it's the first morning and I'm freaking out about being inside this oven. So I go in there and I clear out my my precious belongings, which is my laptop and my camera. So I take those and put them up in the house because I'm like, it's probably not a great idea to keep them in this temperature because it's really hot in here. Although this building up here there's no security, like there's no doors. So I'm risking either just like leaving these out in the open or letting them cook. So I decided to go with the building, which was a great idea because that night when I got back in my tent, everything had melted. Like my deodorant was a puddle on the bottom of my tent. My toothpaste was liquid, like complete liquid. I had some batteries to blow up my air pump. They had like exploded, and there was like battery acid eroding the bottom of my tent. So now there's holes in the bottom of my tent. Everything was melting. It was a legitimate oven in there. My air mattress turned to like rubbery, like a bubble. Like there was no firmness to it anymore. It was so soft. It was really, really intense, really, really hot. Anyways, so you get the idea. So also we have to walk everywhere because we don't have vehicles. So, and we live on top of this hill. So mind you, there's up and down and up and down and up and down. And there's dust and there's sweat. This was the first time in my life that I legitimately got down on my knees with earnesty and said, Jesus, please make it cooler. Like, I don't know how I'm going to survive this entire month. It is so hot. You have to do something. And he did. Like, the next few days, he blew in some clouds. It rained for a little while, which was a whole nother thing because, again, we're tenting, so rain wasn't exactly friendly. There was one time when it was, like, storming, and our tents were just, like, somebody's tent blew away, and they had to go find it. Like, it was bad. So extreme temperatures, extreme environment. And at nighttime, there was these giant spiders, like, they're sand spiders. And they run really fast, and they're poisonous, and so you're sitting down finally in kind of semi-cool environment. Because once the sun goes down, it does drastically change temperatures. And so we're like not lounging, but sitting to have our team time in a circle on the ground. And I just feel this giant over my hand. And I was like, all right, I'm done sitting on the ground. Like, there are poisonous snakes and spiders just everywhere, hiding in this little brush around. Not to mention parasites. The one thing that was lucky about where we were located is we were like a mile away from this big giant lake, right? Lake Malawi. So, the only problem with that is this lake was infested with a very specific parasite. And so our contact told us, you know what, y'all can swim in this thing, but there's a very specific parasite in here that cannot be treated without this one very specific drug that I'll give y'all at the end if you want to risk it. Like, sure. And so at first we were like, heck no, I'm not going to swim in this thing because it's infested with this crazy parasite. But after being there for a few days and being extremely uncomfortably hot, it was like, you know what, heck with this. I'm just going to swim in here and I'm going to take the meds when we leave. You know, it's going to be fine. Well, as it turns out, when it was time to leave, we went to ask if we could have this medication. And so she was like, oh, actually, I just ran out. So we never got this medication. And so it's supposed to like take effect in like 10 years if you did in fact contract this parasite. So I still have 3 years to figure out whether I have this intense parasite or not. So if it manifests in 3 years, then just remind me that this is probably what's happening to me. And then I can notify someone to get this specific medication that only works on parasite in Lake Malawi. But anyways, one of my teammates refused to get in this lake. He was like, I don't care how hot I am. I don't care how dirty I am. I'm just not going to swim in that lake. I'm just not going to do it. I did not have that willpower. I did not. Because I was like, guys, I can't. Another intense factor of this is there wasn't any plumbing on this hill, obviously, because we're in the middle of a desert. So in order to get our water, we had to walk down the hill about a mile to this well, and we had to pump our water. And then we would carry it back in these like 5-liter giant containers. The African ladies could just do it on their head. Like, they have this amazing ability to just bounce crap ton of weight on their head. I could not do that. No. So what I would do is I would take my backpacking pack, and I would stick this big old honking jug of water down inside of my pack, and then I would just trudge back up the hill. Well, by the time I would get there, I mean, it's like digging into my shoulders because this thing is heavy. And I would trudge it back up to the one shower stall that we had. There was one little like porta potty outhouse type thing that was constructed on the top of the hill that had one toilet that never had toilet paper. So if you didn't have your own toilet paper, which as racers we usually carried a roll of toilet paper just because it was necessary, because we had just come from Asia, had no toilet paper. Nowhere in Asia has toilet paper because they all use those fancy little sprayer things. But anyways, we all had like a roll of toilet paper. So thank goodness for that. It did last for the month. But you had to flush it with your water. I mean, you have to like bucket it into the toilet and then it flushes down. Because there's obviously no plumbing. And so on the other side of this stall, it's like a double-sided thing. Like, you enter from this side, it's the toilet. If you enter from this side, it's the shower. So, but the shower, all it really was a closet with a hole in the ground with a curtain as the door. So we go in there, and there's a 5-gallon bucket, an empty bucket for you to pour your water in, and then you scoop it out and dump it over yourself. And, we'd done this before, bucket showers. It's pretty common on the race. I'd done it in like 2 other countries, so it wasn't a huge deal. But the fact was that I had to walk down the hill and then back up the hill with my big old jug of water. This was like precious commodity. I was going to, be as careful with it as I could. So anyways, I took my little bucket shower, and then I still had some water left. And I'm pretty sure I gave it to the kitchen because they have to haul up water for cooking and everything. So, but by the time I had hauled around my leftover water and walked through the dust, it's like I hadn't even taken a shower. I was all sweaty again. I was all dusty again. And I go back and I sit in my tent. I'm like, what was the purpose of all that? Like, that was too much freaking work to be once again all dusty and all sweaty. So So I only did that once. And then we discovered that there was a hotel down by the lakeside that offered, there was a shower facility there that we could have access to for a short period of time. It didn't last all month because they got in trouble because we were there with another group of people that were just making challenges for all the locals, and all, they just kept getting kicked out of facilities. And so we were we experienced the repercussions of that, and we got kicked out. So for the first, there was a week in there that we could use those showers, and it was magnificent. We'd go down there and we'd use the showers and we'd relax for a little bit and eat some of their food off their menu. And you have to buy these little charge cards for your phone because they don't have Wi-Fi. So you just buy data, and then you use it until it's gone, and then you have to buy another one. So we would go and we'd buy data, and I'd upload all my pictures and all my blogs, because I'd been writing on my blog posts. Anyways, so we would use that time to do that. And then we would go walk up the hill again. And again, by the time I get into my tent, I'm all dusty and sweaty once again because I just walked up a hill. And so it's every time we'd actually get clean, we'd only stay clean for a period of 5 minutes. And then you just get all dusty and dirty again. And hot and sweaty and terrible. And at nighttime, you would just lay there in your dust and your sweat and just suffocate until about, midnight, when things would finally kind of cool down to normal, and then you could fall asleep. But so physically exhausting conditions, awful, terrible. And I wanted a month like this, when we started the race, I wanted to feel the hardcore month, I wanted to do it. So I was excited about it, but also it was terrible. Let's see. I think one of the last things that I'll go into is we went, there was a different resort from the hotel that we went to frequently, down the road a little way. So we had to walk down the path to the main road and catch a van or a bus or whatever that was going that direction. It was usually a crowded pickup truck where you just sit on the back. And they would take us down the road to a resort, and which was awesome. And this is when for the first time in my life, I just realized how awesome cleanliness is. I was like, holy moly. I finally understood the whole cleanliness is next to godliness thing. Because I just realized how distracting it was me. Okay, because there were showers there, so we got a shower. But then after the shower, we got to go in the pool, right? So I'm just swimming in this pool, and so my feet are just soaking in this water forever and ever. And when I got out of the pool, y'all, I looked down at my feet, and I was amazed at how clean they were. I was like, what? My feet are so clean. I was so happy at how clean all my toes were. There was no sand in my toenails, and I was like, wow. We are so blessed in America to have clean feet. That was a genuine thing that I was feeling. I was like, I am so blessed to have clean feet because my feet were so dirty. And it was just such an amazing thing. But anyways, so that's my month, right? So in the midst of all these hardcore things that we're going through, God is doing some really, really awesome things. Our contact that month was so he was a really intense Jesus guy. His name is Johan, and he just lived his faith differently than anyone that I knew. He really embraced the whole pray with expectation, and I'd heard that a bunch of times, pray with expectation. When you pray, expect things to happen. But he lived it. He would just give out a prayer okay, I need this thing, God. I don't know. I need it to do this, because he's trying to build this building, and it's part of his ministry, and and Malawi is really hard to get resources. So anyways, if he needs something, he'll just okay, God, I need this, I can't get it. It's up to you, kind of thing. And then it would just show up. So one example of that is he told us a story about his daughter. It was coming up to be her birthday, and this was right before we got there, or around the time we were getting there. And she wanted a donkey. I'm not really sure why she wanted a donkey, but she wanted a donkey for her birthday. And so he had told her, I don't know how we're really going to do that for you. Just, ask God, and, he'll give it to you. So she did, and donkey just showed up at their property, right? So now she has a donkey. That's just an example, y'all. There were so many things that he would legitimately pray and expect to happen, and it did, type of thing. And so he was really trying to import that to us, like, guys, when you pray, just expect it to happen. It will. Like, why would you pray for something if you don't actually want it to happen, kind of thing. Like, change your expectations. So that was a big part of, what I was learning at the time. He also was really, really into, like, just hearing from God. And he was like, God speaks in seconds, y'all. Obviously, he didn't say y'all. I'm kind of ad-libbing there. But he would have us do a lot of prayer walks and just around the hill and everything. And he would just say, listen to God, and he will tell you, like, just, he speaks in seconds. And it's true for me. He does. If I ask, he will answer. So you just got to learn how to hear him. But we would do prayer walks around around the little villages in the area. And he had told us about, there were several witch doctors around, because every African village has a witch doctor, because it's just their culture. So there were 3 little villages around us, and each one of them had a witch doctor. And he had several complaints from the witch doctors around, because he hosts a lot of world race teams, and he's had a lot of white American Christian people come through. And one of the witch doctors was getting really upset with him and told him that we had to stop. We actually had to change, the team before us had to change their way that they walked to the well, because they were walking previously through his property, and he told Johann to stop letting them do that, because they were disrupting his spirits. Because the naive Christians were walking through his property with all their light and scaring away all of his demons, and he was upset about that. And which was really crazy to me to hear, that we're just walking, like, they weren't actively praying at the time. They were just walking to the well, and they were interrupting all the darkness that he was trying to accumulate in that space. I think that's crazy that we just carry it with us without even acknowledging it, without even realizing it. We are covered with the light. We are covered with the blood. And even just when we're walking to the well to get water, to carry back for our shower, we interrupt the spiritual where we walk. And that was very true for our whole ministry for that month, because we didn't do a lot of active, like, in-person type things. Like, we helped him with a lot of his construction, because he was trying to build a pastor's education center on the hill, which was the building when I was talking about all the rubble. So we helped him a little bit with that type physical things, like carrying bricks around and stuff. But most of our ministry that month was just walking around the village and being loving to the people. We would smile, we would greet them, we would be very happy around them. But we would do a lot of prayer walking. We just walk around and pray over everything, just breaking strongholds and everything. And just our presence in that area disturbed a lot of witch doctors. I remember one specific night I was sleeping, and again, I'm in my own little tent in the middle of Africa in a desert, and it's pitch black, and I know that there are witch doctors all around us. And one night I was having a very vivid dream of being attacked by one of these witch doctors. She was attacking me, and I came to, and I sat up, and I was one of those like gasping type coming tos, and I still felt the darkness like hanging around me, and it was a very intense experience. And so I just had to turn on my iPod at the time. I put on some worship music. What was it? It's very specific. "Come to Me" by what's her name? I don't remember what her name is. Anyways, it's the one that's like, "Come to me." I'm forgetting it right now. But anyways, I put that on just repeat, and I was able to go back to sleep, but only while listening to it, because it was just a very, very like gripping experience. But anyways, we also saw a lot of. We were there with another group of. They weren't world racers; they were called passports. So they were a little younger than us. There was about 45 of them, I think, that were there for 3 months in this intense environment. And this was their second month, so they had already been living there for a month, so they kind of knew the ins and outs of things. And they were getting homesick, and and, having a real hard time. And so we were able to speak into them and encourage them and give them, some encouragement and some whatever. But, what I was saying, what was I saying? Also during this month, God really just, he worked on my prophecy really like hardcore. Because he was breaking me. All this physical stuff was killing me, but my spiritual life was going crazy. Like I was getting into the word. I was feeling him like crazy. I was at a really great place. And one night we were having a prayer time with the passport kids. And I just, for the first time with this like intensity, I just, felt like to give him some words, and it just started coming out of my mouth. Like it was spirit, boom, like in and out. Like it was just, it was a lot of sentences. Like I was talking to this guy or speaking over him for a good 5 minutes, or it felt like 5 minutes. Maybe it was like 1, but it was a lot of stuff that I was just pouring out on him, or the Spirit was pouring out on him through me, because to this day, even if you ask me right after what I had said, I have no idea. I don't know what I said. I spoke, and I opened my mouth and words came out. And it was a very cool experience for me. And just to hear everyone around him kind of confirm what I was like, as I was speaking, they were confirming that it was accurate, yes, that's true, yeah, whatever. And so I'm being reaffirmed as I'm just letting my mouth work. A lot of words came out. I don't know what they were, but it was really, really, really cool experience. Another thing God was doing is one day we were having a team time with some passport kids, and I was sitting there and I was just having such a good month. It was probably 2 or 3 weeks into Malawi, and so I'm really enjoying myself at this point. I was like, yeah, this is really cool. And so I'm really at a great place. I don't want to go home. I'm good. I'm just, because the previous month I had been very homesick. We were in Tanzania and it sucked. We just had a terrible month in Tanzania. Like, our ministry partners really weren't that great. Our team was going through a bunch of crap. It just wasn't really fun, And so I knew what it felt like to want to go home. But this month I was cool. But all of a sudden during this meeting, I started feeling really, really homesick. And I was just sitting there. I was like, man, I just want to go home. And I was like, wait, what? Like, no, I don't. I don't want to go home. I'm fine. Like, where's this feeling? What is this feeling? And while I'm processing the fact that this isn't making sense to my brain, the girl across from me starts just like, hey guys, I just feel so homesick. I just want to go home. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe that's where it's coming from. Like, am I feeling what you're feeling? Like, what's going on? And so I brought it up later with some of our other squad, with another teammate. And she was like, oh my gosh, I had the same thing. Like, the other day I was sitting next to this girl and I just got some intense feelings about getting married, man. I was just like, man, I really want to get married, but I don't have this, like, I know that's not where I am. Like, I have no desire to get married right now. So I was like, what's happening? And then the girl next to me was like looking at a bridal magazine and she was like, she just started expressing herself that she really wanted to get married. She's like, oh, well, I guess that's where it's coming from. So to hear her, confirm that this is actually a thing, I was like, oh, cool. Now I can feel other people's emotions. What is that about? Like, and it was really confusing because the next month I started feeling all this crap and I was like, oh my gosh, is it me? Is it someone else? I'm so confused. But, it's really confusing. But really, the way I just kind of, I think explain it is, sorry. The way I can explain it is just I was so in tune with how I was feeling and where I was with God that I could pick up on different, just like I could grab hold and recognize emotions that weren't my own because I was very familiar with where I was. And so that helped me empathize with other people. Like, I could feel their emotions. And I think everyone has this ability, but we just don't recognize it because we're so, like, all of our emotions are so chaotic and everywhere. And I mean, it's scientifically proven, basically, that, like, when a bunch of people gather together and they're all feeling, like, mad or sad, it's just, like, it resonates. It, like, emotions kind of share, I guess. And so I was just able to pick up on them because I was very in tune with where I was. Anyways, So God's doing all these really cool things and showing me things and teaching me things. And I got baptized again. Like I've been baptized a couple times, but this time I just really felt like, because Johan was doing a baptism in the lake, and several of the passport kids were going to get baptized, and I just really felt like God wanted me to go. And before I went in, Johan was like, I just really feel like this is a baptism into your calling. And I was like, awesome. And when I came out of that water, it was the first time I've ever experienced like coming out of the water and just feeling like, because I've been baptized before, and it's like, oh, I don't feel any different. But this time, y'all, I came out of that water and I was like, what just happened? Like, something just changed. And I really, truly feel like he was baptizing me into my calling of what I'm doing basically right now. And it took a few years for me to kind of get onto that. But anyways, all this to say, all these, Malawi is like the most amazing month for me spiritually. I grew exponentially, experienced a ton of awesome things. But it was also the hardest month ever. And I just wanted y'all to, I know that this went really long, and if you want to skip somewhere in there, not that that'll help now that we're at the end. But anyways, I know that a lot of us are going through hard times right now. A lot of us are, jobless. Don't know when we're going to work again. Don't know when money's going to be coming in. Don't know, like, we might be sick. Some of y'all might have the virus. Like, there's a lot of unknowns in this season. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of things that we've never experienced, being stuck at home. Maybe some of you are at home alone and you're experiencing loneliness like you never have before. It's just, there's a lot of really intense things about this season. Some of us, are just chill. This isn't affecting us much, and we're like, we have no sympathy for the people who are stuck at home doing nothing. But this is a really hard time for a lot of people. But I want to encourage y'all, because even in hard times, when stuff sucks and stuff is hard, God does crazy stuff. And so I just would encourage you to just push in and see what he has for you in this time, because this is a weird time. Like, the entire world, I think this is like the first time in maybe ever that the entire world is going through the same exact thing. Like, it's crazy. And I think that it's a prime time for spiritual craziness to happen. So if you're experiencing loneliness or disbelief or worry, press in, and he will do crazy things, because he has crazy things and he wants to share them. And yeah, I think that it's going to be crazy. So thanks for hearing me out. I know it's really, really long. But hard times are also awesome times for the Spirit. So don't give up. Be awesome. Thanks, guys.